When word spread that the legendary Connie Francis had passed away, a deep wave of sorrow moved across the world. Fans from the 1950s to Gen Z took to social media and news outlets to express their grief. It wasn't just the end of a musical era, it was the loss of one of the most resilient and beloved voices in American music history. Known for her timeless classics like Stupid Cupid, Where the Boys Are, and My Happiness, Connie Francis was more than a pop icon. She was a cultural force, a survivor, and an inspiration to millions. The announcement of her passing triggered a global tribute. Radio stations played her greatest hits on repeat. Fellow celebrities, music historians, and fans flooded the internet with old interviews, photos, and rare performances. But beyond her music, it was Connie's personal journey that truly captivated people. Her rise to fame, her struggles with mental health, the tragic loss of her brother, and the violence she endured, all of which she faced with unmatched courage. And so, when the day of her funeral arrived, it was not just a goodbye, it was a final celebration of her life, her spirit, and her legacy. The funeral was held at a beautiful and historic cathedral in New Jersey, the state she had called home for much of her life. The atmosphere was solemn, yet warm, as fans, friends, and family gathered to pay their final respects. White flowers adorned every corner of the venue, while soft orchestral renditions of her songs played gently in the background. Among the first to arrive were a number of old friends from the music industry, figures who had shared the stage with Connie or crossed paths with her during her decades-long career. There were also representatives from music labels, foundations, and fan clubs from around the world, each carrying a personal story of how Connie had touched their lives. Speakers took the stage one by one. Her niece began with a heartfelt tribute, recalling family holidays, Connie's vibrant laughter, and her deep love for Italian cooking and tradition. A longtime friend from her teenage years shared stories from Connie's early days, how even in high school her voice could silence a room and bring tears to teachers' eyes. Several industry figures spoke about her professional achievements, her groundbreaking role as one of the first female pop stars to chart internationally, and how she opened the door for future generations of female vocalists. But the moment that truly left everyone speechless was the arrival and tribute of country music legend Brenda Lee. Brenda and Connie's friendship stretched back to the golden days of radio. Both women rose to fame as teenagers in a male-dominated industry, and their bond had stood the test of time. Brenda, dressed in a dignified black gown, walked slowly toward the front of the church. The room fell into a respectful silence. She began by saying, "Thoughtful Connie wasn't just a singer, she was a warrior. She taught me and so many others how to survive in this business with grace." Brenda recounted moments they shared on tour buses, long phone calls late at night, and the kind of sisterly connection that's rare in the entertainment world. Sad, she could sing through her pain, Brenda said. Even when life tried to silence her, she always came back stronger. Then, as the room sat in quiet anticipation, Brenda stepped behind the microphone for a performance that no one would forget. With only a piano to accompany her, she began to sing "You'll Never Walk Alone." Her voice, rich with emotion and history, filled the cathedral. Each note carried decades of friendship, grief, and love. At times, her voice cracked, not from lack of skill, but from the sheer weight of the moment. Guests clutched tissues. Some quietly sang along. Others closed their eyes and simply let the music wash over them. The performance was followed by a standing ovation. Not a single person sat still. Even clergy members rose to honor the moment. It wasn't just a tribute, it was a bridge between two musical souls. After Brenda's stunning moment, more tributes followed. An archival video montage was played on a large screen, featuring rare footage from Connie's early days on television, her performances abroad, her appearances at USO shows, and even clips from her return to the stage after battling depression. Fans gasped at the raw beauty of it all. Connie's life, so full of highs and heartbreaking lows, was laid out in full, honest, powerful colour. Toward the end of the ceremony, a touching letter was read aloud, written by a fan who had met Connie just once at a meet and greet, but said that moment had changed her life. "Whisper she looked me in the eyes," the letter read, "and told me that I was enough. No superstar ever made me feel more human than Connie did." As the service came to a close, candles were lit and the crowd stood for a moment of silence. Outside, hundreds more fans had gathered, many unable to get inside the packed venue. They held vintage records, framed photos and posters from the 1960s. Some were dressed in retro outfits as a tribute, while others simply stood with quiet respect. In the parking lot, a makeshift wall had been created, where people left flowers, notes and candles. A group of fans sang "Among My Souvenirs" together, their voices trembling as they said goodbye. The funeral reminded the world of just how many lives Connie Francis had touched. Her music crossed borders, generations, and genres. From teenage girls in the 1950s crying over heartbreak to modern artists citing her as an inspiration, Connie's influence remains undeniable. And Brenda Lee's tribute. It will be remembered for generations as one of the most heartfelt moments in music history, a perfect send-off from one icon to another. As we say goodbye to, but the survivor, the woman who turned pain into melody, the voice that gave us comfort, the legend whose light will never fade. Rest in peace, Connie. Your song lives on.